When I get to the bottom of the black tip on this line, it's not that I turn that I'm up behind. Get to the bottom of the again. You want you want me to love you, but I'm going down this, but I'm miles above you. Tell me, yes, sir. I can't remember, but you ain't no answer. And it's nostalgia. And it's nostalgia. And it's nostalgia. You lose your love and left you. But I'm going down that patrol and will break you. Tell me, the answer.
Hello viewers, it's James Kalm, your half-assed reporter, the guy on the bike, welcoming back our worldwide audience. Special shout out to our viewers in India, Beijing, and Sacramento. Today, we're going to have well, I hate to say a treat, but a special event here. We're going to pop into public access here on Henry Street and take a look at a private showing. And we're going to have to give you a viewer discretion warning. Content warning: this exhibition contains extremely graphic and sensitive material. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, the door's open. Okay. And we're going to buttonhole Mike Cockrill. Hello, Mike.
Hello, James.
Thanks for taking the time to give us a little tour of your exhibition here. Let's start out over here. We're going to kind of take a strolling narrative and talk a little bit about the White Papers, 1982, Mike Cockrill and Judge Hughes. Why don't you start us off with a little background on this? You were talking about you did this when you were 28, something like that?
The murder of John Lennon sort of started the ball rolling for the whole thing, and that was December of 1980.
Right, December 8th, 1980. But this goes back before then. So tell us what we're looking at.
Well, this is the motorcade. So Judge Hughes and I began collaborating on a story about the Beatles and John Lennon, but we soon realized that we had to expand it.
It was bigger than the Beatles.
It's bigger than the Beatles, and I was interested in tying in the American story. The Beatles arrived right after the assassination of President Kennedy. Everybody was depressed and glued to their televisions, watching this traumatic American experience.
So this was 1963, November, right?
Yeah, and I was 10, maybe. So I was not as horrified as the adults. I thought it was interesting.
You didn't know what was going on? But you were living around DC at the time, weren't you?
Yes.
And your father was part of the Pentagon or something like that?
Yes, he was working at the Pentagon during the Kennedy administration and the Eisenhower administration. He was a Republican. I do remember, Kennedy was the first president I remember running for president.
Right, against Richard Nixon.
And he lost. And I used to imitate Kennedy's Boston accent. I thought it was a lot of fun. And of course, it was shocking when he was killed. I remember it vividly. But
okay, so anyway, we've got a little narrative going here where we're seeing the motorcade. We're seeing John Kennedy's head getting blown open, and then we're seeing a couple or a family sitting in front of a TV set
Well, it becomes...
People's beer cans are exploding.
Okay, so we're going to start
Family.
if I may. We need to talk about the psychosexual implications of death and violence in America. And
Is this from a personal experience? Is this basically kind of autobiographical? Is that what this really
Not
is?
at all. It's not at all autobiographical.
That's the first thing people say when they're actually talking about their autobiographical implications. Yes.
So, I mean, what we're following is the saga of a boy who grows up in America and decides he's going to kill John Lennon. So we're inside the mind of Mark David Chapman,
Okay.
a fictitious killer being born into what was, a traumatic American moment. All of us went through it as kids, assassination, Viet Nam.
Okay, and I should say again that we're getting to some of the very graphic aspects of this.
It's also Catholic.
Catholic, okay.
So there's the host.
Okay.
And,
I don't want to get in too much into the implications of the family relationships here.
No, I don't think. And of course, we have the famous Oswald dying on television.
All right. So there are the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show? Is that
Right,
what that
they
is?
appear, and that sort of shifts the narrative. And it begins a kind of awareness. Maybe it's an awareness of love and holding hands and going to the park and having an orgy. Free love on the California beaches.
Okay.
And then the National Guard comes. Here's the ghost ship.
PT-109.
Yes, the Kennedy ghost ship arrives inexplicably. And the National Guard comes up and breaks the whole thing apart. They say, no, enough of that.
Okay.
And they stick their dog on the boy, who's now getting older. She arrives at the Beetle Hotel room.
Okay, we're moving along here.
And all mayhem breaks loose in the Beetle Hotel room.
Now, you had said that this is in collaboration with Judge Hughes. How much of this was Judge Hughes' idea?
I don't remember because it was 40 years ago, and we pretty much worked on it over a period of a year, going back and forth and developing the idea. I did all the drawing. So at some point, he could be like an art director. We reworked it. We actually wrote the book twice.
Wow. And there are how many panels in the entire book?
There's 115 original ink drawings in the show. And as you can imagine, the book was quite controversial when it came out.
How many copies did you publish?
We made 1,000 and gave them away. Didn't give them away. We charged like $10 and put them in Sahozat and East Village Bookshop and St. Mark's. And I think Printed Matter had a few copies for a little bit, but I took them off the market.
Why was that?
My work moved on, and then my head moved to a different place. So this didn't really represent the kind of art I was making or interested in making.
Or you wanted to be known for making?
What? Sorry?
The kind of work you wanted to be known for making?
I don't mind being known for making this work, but I didn't want people focusing on it. I just wanted to forget it.
Okay.
But then I started doing like little girls shooting clowns. Remember those?
I do.
And,
I think the National Clown Association is going to be coming after you for those.
Well, I'm sympathetic with the poor clowns.
Yeah, that's what they all say.
But
Till you shoot them.
well, the collaboration went to like 87 or so, and then I decided to go do another kind of art.
And you've also collaborated with Mark David. Is that true?
I haven't really collaborated with him. I did ideas for Mark.
Ideas.
Drawing ideas and things for his painters to use. Yeah, no, you know what? It is kind of a collaboration because he'll
Sure
have
it
an
is.
idea, and I'll draw it. Yeah, that's true. And then he might correct it, and I might. Sometimes I
Okay.
had an idea, and sometimes she
So over here we've got a roller coaster ride through some kind of valley with the smiling Buddhas. And if I'm not mistaken, that's a 1962 or 63 Chrysler or something or other that somebody's driving around in. We've got
it's
like
a DeSoto.
a DeSoto.
Now, the jets represent the U.S. bombing of Cambodia.
Okay.
So they leave Viet Nam, they go into Cambodia. This is a dream that the boy is having. And the Buddha appears again and tries to save him with the Heimlich maneuver, but that doesn't work. The Buddha is actually, in my mind, maybe it's his sister, but I'm not sure.
Gosh.
She lives in Nam. She's born and then she dies again.
Now, one of the other things I was saying is that there is no text in this. And also I was wondering about, this isn't on Bainbridge board like a professional illustrator or a professional cartoon person would be using. You're kind of using, what is that? It's just like regular sketch pad paper?
It could be even photocopy paper.
Photocopy paper?
I worked at Merrill Lynch at the time. And I wasn't concerned with archival anything. And it's ink and some kind of...
This is a dip pen you're using, or is this a rapidograph? Or?
First I did rapidograph, and then I changed and did the book all over again in a brush to give it more weight.
So all of this is brushwork?
Yeah, it's all pen and brush. Brush and ink, yeah.
Okay, brush and ink. Okay, so now we're getting up towards the time that you came to New York City,
Right.
which was 79?
Yeah, I make a cameo here. Uh-oh. It's me smoking a cigarette in a punk club. It's kind of the way I remembered Max's Kansas City, the bathroom. People would come and go. I really know. But it's now
They wouldn't let me into Max's.
So now we have the boy arrives in New York and he gets John Lennon's autograph. Now we realize
He's signing the album cover.
Right.
Of course, I think John David Chapman actually came in from Hawaii for that.
Right. We have a fictitious Mark David Chapman. We don't really know where he's from.
John is being shot.
He did shoot him 5 times. That's true.
Yes, did he actually are you plotting the areas where the bullets actually hit accurately, or is this more creative?
It's creative license.
Yes.
It's poetic. It's poetic license. And yeah.
Okay, and I believe John Chapman is still in prison, is that not correct?
Mark David.
Mark David, yes.
Yoko would not agree to his parole.
Well, neither would I. Okay, so he shot
Where?
John.
And that's his face as a
Yoko.
pancake. As Sean comes down with his little monkey.
Okay, so John is leaving the scene with the zombie girls.
Yeah, that's his sister and Sharon Tate.
Sharon Tate, okay. Well, I was thinking there were some kind of tragic overlaps between, the Tate murders, Helter Skelter and all that stuff. And what is his last scene of, it's like
The zombie,
the zombie sharecroppers or whatever they're doing there, planting
They're planting
seeds,
gonads.
planting gonads.
And they are harvesting them and they're impregnating themselves and they're giving birth in the land of the dead. With no men. Men are just been made, men are just agricultural now. They're grown. They grow their penises.
Come over here so you're not there in the shadows. Let's talk a little bit more about your ideas that you were working with when you started doing this. The East Village was just starting to take off. Punk rock was a big deal. There was the whole downtown cinema thing. Everybody was kind of going out of their way to gross out everybody else and seeing how far you could push it. What was your attitude as far as like seeing how transgressive you could go?
I felt that it was not intentionally, I was looking around New York today. New York today has these skyrise, the big glass buildings. And
Yes.
when I was riding around New York, the subways were filled with drawing. Like the cars were drawn on the inside and on the outside. There was a world of cartoon, really. And it was, what was there to, it was a transgressive. There was a value in being transgressive. I think we'd come through kind of an optimism. Reagan got reelected, Reagan got elected. Whatever happened to the 60s, John Lennon is killed. I mean, I think there was just a sense of a primal, cathartic attitude, which maybe is punk. And I was surprised that critics would be so resistant to the idea of making transgressive work that sort of rattles the social structures, because why not? I mean, what are we pandering to after all,
Well, but you said it. It's like you weren't interested in carrying on this line of work after a certain point. And maybe there is a kind of, adolescent or teenage kind of stick it to mommy and daddy and get out there and just offend everybody you can. And then at some point, there's a maturity sets in and you start to realize, gosh, society's not going to hold itself together if everybody starts playing that game.
No, that's not the way I was thinking.
Okay.
I was just thinking I want to become more nuanced and subtle about what I'm saying, and just as maturing as an artist, so I don't want to repeat myself. I did a lot of cartoon painting, and then I got tired of making cartoons. I wanted to do a different kind of painting, but I still had, ironically, the way it was received by people was still as if I was shaking up conventional thinking. And so I didn't leave behind critique of our culture or critique of society or the willingness to be transgressive. It stayed in the work.
But you just put it on a lower level, a more subtle, nuanced level?
Sometimes it just flew a little under the radar so they would actually look at it instead of just dismissing it outright, which is a problem. How do you reach your audience? I want to communicate, right?
Well, one would hope so.
So I don't want to just be screaming in the void. I want to actually have a conversation.
You want to have an audience.
I want to have a conversation.
Okay, that's good. Tell us a little bit about the history of this. Now, you were saying that you took a book off the market, and you've basically been sitting on these drawings for, 40 years now? Something like that? 41 years? Something?
It took like a new generation, I think, to find the book and discover it. So Leo Fitzpatrick was part of that new generation who came across this book.
Yes.
I don't know if my generation would accept it. I mean, I got a lot of flack for it. I got a lot of flack for the white paper, the cartoon paintings, even my little children paintings, the
Yes.
storybook style. I got flack for that. You can't make these people happy.
But I know I came in for the opening, I guess it was a week ago, something like that, and Carla McCormick, one of the chroniclers of the East Village thing, was here. So, and some other people. Somebody has been looking, somebody's been watching, paying attention.
They pay attention, but Leo Fitzpatrick approached me and asked me if I'd be willing to show the entire suite of all 115 black and white drawings. And no one had ever asked that before.
Right.
And what's interesting about it is when you see them on the wall, now it's not going to be the same on TV because you're looking at them individually. But when you see the sweep of the room, I've noticed that people come in and really think about them as a mural. It's like a drawing that flows. There's a lot of rhythm to it. And I was struck myself by...
Well, I was going to say one thing is that you've double-decked this, so it's kind of hard to exactly follow the narrative. I guess you go 4 on the top and then 4 on the bottom and then another...
It's two. The problem is if we go over to Lennon, we can see the problem. The book has double pages.
Right, double trucks.
So we can't, you can't
not
put
all of them,
underneath,
right.
You have to put them side by side.
Right.
So up, down, like that. It's remarkably, it fits into space.
Actually, it's a great way to observe this and kind of come in and see what's going on. What kind of response are you expecting this time around? It's in certain ways, when you did this originally in 1982, 83, East Village and all that stuff, people were more open to that. And today, with the, can I call it the woke culture, the cancel culture, all that stuff? Do you think that people will find it more objectionable, or at least they'll be able to attack you more efficiently?
Well, so far, it's been better than it was then.
Okay.
It was, believe me, woke was live and well in the 80s in the art world. So it's just triggered, it's just...
Yeah, but they didn't have any power.
They didn't have an internet or whatever.
That's right. No
But
social media.
I got flack right away. And so, it's not new. But anyway, now I think people are seeing them as drawings. They're getting the chance to look at the work on the wall, which makes it very different.
Well, that's why I was saying was kind of interesting that these are not on Bainbridge board. They don't have the blue lines, and you didn't take professional like paste up and mechanical classes or any of that stuff, right? So this is all kind of just drawings, and then you like photostated them or however you reproduce them for the book, and
yeah, I must have. I gave them to the printer, and he did whatever printers do, but they're not illustrations, they're original drawings. It's true, it's interesting. Because I come from a fine art background, not from an illustration background. And maybe that's why it changed. I wanted to get back to my fine art style painting.
Was there any other, say, underground comic artist that might have influenced you, or you might have been looking at or thinking about when this was happening?
You know, that's a great question, a fair one, but the answer is no. There was nobody doing anything like this. I mean, I knew that nobody was doing anything like this. And Art Crumb is the closest you get, but I wasn't that familiar with this work. I didn't pay attention to it. I'll tell you what this comes from. It comes from Japanese erotica. Not from contemporary, but from the 1800s. You know, Hokusai.
Yes.
Beautiful drawings. And they showed everything.
Right.
That was more an inspiration to me than Degas, you know, but I like Degas too. So coming out of fine archery, this comes out of drawing and looking at all kinds of art that way, you know, more than comic books or underground zines. I found the zines rather obvious, you know, culture, And what is this?
Anything else you'd like to say about the show or how things are going?
Come see it because it's really, it's great because this thing on the door says this is really extremely graphic, and that has to do with the lawyer. But people come in, and I saw one mom with a child, and it's like, hello, there's a sign on the wall, and she corkscrews her little kid's head around, like, we're not going in here. But the people are spending time. And of course, this is something I did 40 years ago.
Yes.
So my new work is another thing altogether, and maybe, but I think there's still threads, though.
All right, well, Mike Cockrill, The White Papers, here at Public Access. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us a little bit.
It's always great, and come have a good time. I'll be here on the weekends.
Okay. You got any merch, any t-shirts or anything else we should know about?
T-shirts, believe it or not. We will have t-shirts.
This has been James Kalm reporting on Mike Cockrill's The White Papers, here at Public Access. You can like this, share, link it up to all your social media sites, and you can leave your thoughts, ideas, comments, criticisms, and if you watch this, you receive the warnings for the graphic imagery. Anyway, we always like to end with saying, thank you, Kate. Whoa! In circles.
Thanks so much.